Okay, students. So continuing from the story, when the ghost went towards the library, two figures suddenly leapt out on him from a dark corner. They waved their arms wildly above their heads and screamed out "Boo, boo" in his ear. He rushed for the staircase, but there he found Washington Otis waiting for him. The only thing he could do was disappear, and he did, into the great iron cooking stove in the kitchen, which luckily for him was not lit. He had to make his way home through the chimneys and reached his room very dirty and unhappy. So, students, as he was walking very quietly in the corridor, suddenly the twins came and frightened him with a scream in his ear. Then, on his way, he met Mr. Otis, so he got frightened and confused and ran to his room through chimneys, and he was very dirty and very sad. Now, please come to the second heading. He must have gone. After this, he was not seen again at night. The twins lay waiting for him several times, but he never came. It was quite clear that his feelings were so hurt that he would not appear. The family now began to lead a more normal life. Mr. Otis was able to get on with a book he had been trying to write for some years. Mrs. Otis organized a wonderful party. The boys played American games, and Virginia rode out on her horse with the young Duke of Cheshire, who had come to spend the last week of his holidays at Canterbury Chase. They all thought that the ghost had gone away. In fact, Mr. Otis wrote a letter to tell Lord Canterbury, who replied that he was very pleased at the news. The Otises, however, were wrong. The ghost was still in the house. So the students, they were all happy, and they thought that the ghost had gone and they were leading their normal life, but actually they were wrong, because the Canterbury ghost was still there and he was hiding in the house. So the next last heading of this page is Conversation with a Ghost. A few days after this, Virginia and the young Duke went out riding. On the way, she tore her riding dress badly, and when she returned home, she went up the back stairs so that no one would see her. So it was Virginia, and she was enjoying a ride with the Duke, but unfortunately her riding dress was damaged, so she went upstairs to change her dress, and on her way going upstairs, she saw someone. She saw someone in the library, and she thought it was a maid, but it was not the maid. Okay, students, now this is your day 2 lecture. Now we'll continue the story. That evening it rained hard, and a fierce wind shook all the doors and windows in the house. It was the sort of weather he loved. This is what he planned to do. That is the ghost. He would go quietly to Washington Otis' room, scream at him from the foot of the bed, and cut his own throat 3 times with the rusty dagger to the sound of some sad funeral music. He hated Washington because he knew it was he who kept rubbing out the blood stain. After he had frightened that young man, his next stop, he thought, would be the bedroom of the American businessman and his wife. He would put a cold, wet hand on Mrs. Otis' forehead while he whispered horrible things into her trembling husband's ear. He had not made up his mind about Virginia. She had never been nasty to him in any way, and was pretty and gentle. Perhaps a few groans from the corner cupboard would be enough to wake her up, but he was quite determined to teach the twins a lesson about ghosts that they would never forget. He would sit on them to wake them up. Then he would stand between their beds in the form of a dead body, green and icy cold. When the boys were stiff with fear, he would throw off his white sheet and crawl round on the floor, showing all his bones and just one rolling eyeball. This had been very successful in the past. At 10:30, he heard the family going to bed. For some time he was disturbed by wild screams of laughter from the twins, who were amusing themselves before they went to sleep. But at 11:15 he was still, and he started out. He stepped out of the wall with an evil smile on his wicked face. The moon hid behind a cloud as he crept along. Once he thought he heard something and stopped, but it was only a dog on one of the neighbors' farms. Now, students, as we all know that the Canterbury ghost was planning to teach the Otis family a lesson, he chose 17th of August, Friday. He was waiting for the windy, rainy and stormy evening to appear and frighten the Otis family. So one evening he got the chance. He was full of all sorts of horror tricks and was ready to implement them on the Otis family, except Virginia, because she never used to be a troublemaker for the ghost. Okay, now finally he reached the corner of the corridor that led to Washington Otis' room. For a moment he paused there, the wind blowing his long grey hair about his hand. Then the clock struck 11:30 and he felt the time had come to start. He laughed to himself and turned the corner. As soon as he had done so, he fell back with a scream of fright and hid his face in his hands. So, the ghost was about to start his horror show, but unfortunately, he fell back and screamed in horror. Do you know why? Now, please come to second heading of the same page, the second ghost. Right in front of him, there was a horrible figure. Its face was round and fat and white. Its mouth was fixed in a horrible smile. Red light shone from its eyes and mouth. It wore a long white sheet like his own. On its chest was a card with strange writing all over it, and in its hand it carried a shining sword. As he had never seen a ghost before, the Canterbury ghost was, of course, terribly frightened. After a second quick look at the awful thing, he ran back to his room, tripping over his own sheet on the way. He dropped his rusty dagger into one of Mr. Otis' boots, where it was found by the servants next morning. Back in his own room, he threw himself down on a bed and hid his face under a pillow. After a time, however, he began to feel better and braver. He decided to go and speak to the other ghosts as soon as it was daylight. So just as the sun began to rise, he returned to the place where he had first seen that awful figure. He felt that after all, two ghosts were better than one. Perhaps with the help of his new ghost friend, he might be able to really frighten the twins. But when he reached the place, however, he saw something was wrong. An awful thing had happened to the ghost. Yes, you are right, students, that there was a second ghost standing with fiery red eyes in front of him. So the Canterbury ghost was scared and ran back to his room. In the morning, he got the idea that he can fight the Otis family if the second ghost becomes his friend. So he went back to meet the second ghost, but he was surprised to see that there was no ghost at all. Okay, students, so we have learned that when the ghost had gone to the same place to see the second ghost, he saw that something terrible happened to the ghost. The light had gone out of his eyes, its sword had fallen from its hand, it was leaning up against the wall looking most uncomfortable. It must be ill, he thought. He rushed forward to hold it in his arms. Suddenly, the big round head slipped off and rolled on the floor. The Canterbury ghost was very frightened. Then suddenly he found he was holding a white bed sheet in his hands, and lying at his feet were a broom, a kitchen knife, and a large pumpkin. The inside of the pumpkin had been removed, so it was hollow, and holes had been cut in the side to look like two eyes and a mouth. He could not understand this curious change in the other ghost, and took hold of the card which had been on its chest. There, in the grey morning light, he read these fearful words. The old ghost, the only true and real ghost, not an imitation, all others are false. Now he knew that he had been tricked. He raised his hands to his head and shouted out that he would punish everyone in the house. Then he went back to his room and stayed there until the evening. So the Canterbury ghost saw that there was no ghost, only his costumes were there. The ghost was not the real ghost, it was designed with a white bedsheet, pumpkin, a broom, kitchen knife, etc. There was also a card on its chest, and which says that all other ghosts are false except this one. So now, students, the ghost understood that he was made a fool by the twins. He became very, very angry and decided to punish them. Okay, please come to this heading, the next page of our story, A Quiet Ghost. The next day, the ghost was very weak and tired. The excitement of the last month was beginning to have its effect. He was very nervous. The smallest noises frightened him. For 5 days he stayed in his room. At last he made up his mind to stop coloring the bloodstain in the library, but he had to appear in the corridor at least once a week. That was his job. So, for the next 3 Saturdays, he walked the corridors as usual between midnight and 3 o'clock, but he did everything to make sure that no one would see him or hear him. He removed his boots, stepped as lightly as possible on the old wooden floor, and wore a large black coat. He was also careful to put the rising sun oil on his chains. At first, he did not want to use it. However, one night while the family were having their dinner, he slept into Mr. Otis' room and carried off the bottle. He felt silly at first, but had to admit that it was better not to make so much noise. Even so, he was not left in peace. Strings were continually being stretched across the corridor, and he tripped over them in the dark. And one time the twins put some butter on the floor at the top of the staircase, he slipped on it and very nearly fell down the stairs. This last trick made him so angry that he decided to visit the rude young boys the next night as the headless nobleman. It took him 3 hours to get ready. At last everything was done and he was very pleased with his appearance. The big boots were just a little too large and he could only find one of the 2 guns he usually carried. But he was quite satisfied, and soon after midnight he crept down the corridor. So students, as we all know that the ghost was made a fool by the twins, so he was very disappointed and felt very nervous and weak. He stayed in his room for 5 days, but then he felt better and decided to appear once again. But this time he used to walk very slowly in the house without making any noise, without disturbing others. Even then the twins did not stop playing tricks on the ghost. They made him fall on the floor and slip down the stairs. He got angry again and decided to teach the twins a lesson and frighten the boys, appearing as a headless nobleman, that is, a man without head.